And welcome back to the MMcast. I am your host this week, Marshall James, and I've got my guest with me, Veil of Death, Veil of Death MTG on YouTube. Howdy there.
Hello, everybody, and hi, Marshall. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, so this week, the guys, Kessler and Ben, are actually at a trade show for their toy company, Kessco Toys. Big shout out to Kessco Toys. Go check them out right now. They got a really exciting new game, Battle Bosses, that is coming out. The Kickstarter backers are receiving their Kickstarter rewards just now. And it's a game I'm really excited about. It's a miniatures skirmish game in a little battle arena. Myself and frequent collaborator on the show, Michael Grothy, also helped with playtest and design on the game. It's just a lot of fun. You got one big boss and a bunch of little minions, and you're trying to take down your opponent's big boss and little minions. It's a lot of fun. But we're not on the show this week to talk about that. Instead, I'm here to talk about a format that I'm just super excited about and really want to get more eyes on it, is the Artisan Commander format. And so I asked Veil to come on the show. He also makes Artisan Commander content over on his YouTube channel. This week's episode, it's all about Artisan Commanders. It's all about the fun you can have in Commander without any rares. Tell us about what is Artisan? What makes it different than regular Commander?
Well, what makes it different is you have your commanders are only uncommons. That's the first one. Thanks to Commander Legends, you have a wide variety that you can use, including partners. 2-color mostly. There are no real 3-color decks last time I checked for Artisan. That many?
There's exactly 3 legendaries that are uncommon, and they were all downshifted thanks to one of the online masters.
Oh, so yeah.
There's an Esper, a Bant, and a Jund commander that are at uncommon, but they're all really old legends. They're not particularly strong, and they're only really easy to get on Magic Online. So yeah, for the most part, all commanders are 2 colors. And it's not just the commanders, it's all your deck is commons and uncommons. So exactly. It's a rare-free and mythic-free zone.
But still a little bit higher than Pauper, which will be just commons.
Yeah. My excitement around this format came out of the fact that I am a big deck brewer. I love building decks for Commander, and I also really like deck building challenges, putting some sort of restriction on myself. And one thing that really excited me a few years ago when Dominaria came out was the sudden emergence of a lot of uncommon legends. Beforehand, I think there had been some attempts to do a pauper or peasant commander, and they had to bend the rules by allowing you to you can play a rare commander, or you can play any uncommon creature, even non-legendary ones. And that just never felt right to me, because either you're breaking your own rule by allowing a rare, or you're breaking the rules of Commander by allowing a non-legend. So when they came out with uncommon legends, I was like, awesome, I can finally do it. I grabbed a Slimefoot, I grabbed all of the common and uncommon fungus sapperling makers, threw them all together, and it turns out that deck was not bad, because one of the stronger archetypes in Artisan Commander is Aristocrats. It turns out draining out your opponents, Blood Artist is still legal, Falconroth Noble still legal, Zulaport Cutthroat, all those guys. All the basic Aristocrats pieces are all there. So I was able to build this Slimefoot base Commander deck and actually win against people playing normal Commander decks, obviously not against CDH level decks, but if I'm playing against other mid-power decks and I'm playing my no rares Slimefoot deck, I feel like I have even money chances against them. What was your first foray into Artisan like?
My first foray was actually watching somebody else build. That was specifically Alan from Mental Misplay. He was building an Artisan deck, and that inspired me. Let me go check my 20 plus boxes of trash cards and finally get a good use out of them. And also the nice thing is, especially as you mentioned, the deck challenges, I like to deck challenge myself. Even for my normal content, for CDH content I have deck restrictions that I like. Like, for example, I don't use proxies. which means I only use cards I own. For example, I don't use white border cards. You know, fun stuff like this. And for Artisan specifically, it was literally, there was like no precedent, like no real like deck text or Mox Field or EDH rig or whatever. So I just literally just went there, took my boxes, found legends that were like, do I want to build something on this? Okay, I found the theme, I found the commanders. For me specifically right now, it will be Casket and Dargo, and then just went through my entire collection just to get cards. And I really love building those because I do build decks sometimes like this just out of my pure collection, including my casual commanders before, which I had. I've built I literally just opened my binder and let's see, this card, and suddenly we have a 100-card deck. Let's go.
Well, I love that idea of like not needing to build like the optimized deck. I feel like there's so much talk about like how we need to optimize Commander. And I feel like, you know, there's a big conversation going on in the Commander space online about power creep, about speed creep, even in non-CDH formats, right? There are people who are just trying to play their normal janky decks. And the thing is, Wizards has printed enough mana rocks and enough efficient card draw that it's starting to become, it is no longer the format of the big flashy 7 and 8 mana drop play. Even in your casual deck, the game nights, Command Zone, like they talk about this a lot, but then at the same time, they're also the ones saying the format's too fast for 3 mana rocks, stop playing them. Like Hedron Archive is bad, stop playing it. And I'm like, you guys realize it's a chicken and egg thing when you tell people that the format is too fast for you to play your 3 mana rocks and then later complain that people aren't playing 3 mana rocks anymore. Like, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Mm-hmm. So I really appreciate the idea of like just looking at your collection, just throwing together the cards, and then just playing the deck. And you can tweak it later, but like, there doesn't need to be a like, but if I had a Necro in here, and if I, like, I don't know where, I'm going to find another Sylvan Library for this deck. It's like, you don't need it. Like, no, unless your like commander specifically needs, like you don't want to play your Nazan deck without your Hammer of Nazan, right? But unless your commander absolutely needs it, like just build a deck and get it going. And I think that's kind of the thing that really is exciting about Artisan is like anybody who's been playing Magic for any decent amount of time has their big pile of boxes. They're right off camera here, right? And I dig through them all the time and I'm like, oh man, this was an exciting card, or this was an exciting card. Like I really like pretty much I've only really played Commander and Limited. And I think my love of Limited is actually what informed my love of Commander, of Artisan Commander specifically. Like, I wanted to include uncommons because personally, uncommons are some of my favorite cards in the game, especially in the last 10 years or so. They've really been pushing that the uncommons, the signpost uncommons, they like to call them, are the rares of Limited, right? They're the ones where you want to open up that, like, there's so many like gold, white, and blue flyers that like give bonuses to all your flyers. And it like tells you like blue, white flyers is how you draft blue and white in this format, right? Mm-hmm. And it means you get a pile of like Azorius cards that are all like good flying and flying matters cards, but they're all not good enough for an actual commander deck. But Artisan is a format where those like first pick, instant windmill slam draft cards become great. So it feels sometimes like I'm playing a really super optimized sealed deck, like the best possible sealed deck I could have opened. And I think part of what also really led to this was Commander Legends, which was like the big windfall moment for this format. And it was the first time that I was able to get Kessler and Ben on board doing a Commander stream where we're like, oh, let's do it. There's now more than enough variety. There are 184 legal legends for the format, but 30 of them have partner. And if you do the math, that makes 435 possible combo pairs. So really the format feels like it has nearly 600 possible commanders. And that's a wide open field. And it really is sort of a Wild West format because people haven't really broken it yet, as far as I can tell. There's a lot of people who are worrying like, are some of the really powerful uncommon legends that are powerful even at regular level, like Tatyova or Sir Conrad, like, are they going to just be like juggernauts in this format? And I haven't yet found that to be the case. Have you found any like real problematic cards or commanders in Artisan yet?
I don't think so. From all the games I played, it was literally every deck just gets to do what they want to do, and then whoever gets to do it better a little bit to outplay their players, they just, still have a good time. I haven't seen anything to go like really ruin the fun. I've played like 8 to 9 games, some on and some off stream, and I even played with a guy who had Force of Will and everything in their deck, and he basically still played like it was a normal casual game. It was nothing like we were being stopped or nuked by the guy that has the most expensive card in the format.
Yeah. Well, and I think you're right on there is that like it does feel sometimes like this is actually an almost more strategically intense version of Commander because there aren't those big haymaker spell effects. So the format, one of the topics we want to kind of go over is how is this different from regular Commander? And one thing I think is value plays are a lot more important in Artisan Commander because there isn't going to be an insurrection. There isn't going to be a Rise of the Dark Realms, or there are no extra turn cards. Some of the big homogenous like auto-include like cards like Cyclonic Rift and Dockside Extortionist and Fierce Guardianship, they're all gone. Mm-hmm. Force of Will is still there, but I honestly kind of feel like Force of Will is a pretty fair card. Like your opponent goes down 2 cards to stop you, which is a trade I often will take. Like, fine, okay, you discard 2 cards to stop my spell. Okay. And you get to do that once. Good job.
I would say Force of Will and all these, like, especially that there, as you said, there's no Cyclonic Rift, there's no Damnation, no one card combo cards basically that I say I win the game, like even Adnos from CEDH format is not here, even though if you look at it in a different perspective, a lot of those auto includes for fast and competitive formats are uncommons and commons.
Yeah, you still get your Soul Ring. Yeah, Soul Ring is still around, but most of the other fast mana is not around. But the format still has the ubiquitous signets. There's still signets and talismans everywhere, and I think they're still real good. Like, mana ramp is not hard. One thing I do think is interesting is, over the years, there've been enough color pie breaks that sometimes at full power Commander, it feels like the colors have really lost their identity, because they printed enough good card draw spells in every color except white that you don't need to be playing blue to draw plenty of cards. And now that they've started printing like enchantment removal in black, and they've started printing creature and artifact removal in blue of all things, like it's starting to feel like a lot of colors no longer have any weaknesses, and they're all pretty good at everything. And when they print all these talismans and signets, every color is good at ramping. So now it sort of just feels like we pick a commander and the cards will be there to play them. And it seems like when you remove a lot of the rares, the colors sort of go back to being what they're good at. No longer does green have all the haymaker card draw spells that it has at rare. Like, there's no Rishkar's Expertise and Return of the Wild Speaker. There's Harmonize, and Harmonize is like super great, pretty much an auto-include in most green Artisan decks, I'd imagine. But like at this point, green is so spoiled for card draw cards that like Harmonize is even good in regular Commander. Right?
Yeah, there's no Guardian Project. There is no Great Henge, the most broken green artifact ever made, I think.
It's insane. Yeah. Like all those nutty things are gone, but there are like now you get to like look a second time at like Lead the Stampede and Hunter's Insight, and it's like, oh yeah, okay, green's got some like creature-based card draw that's worth looking at.
Yeah, I have that's the theme of my deck. I have a Rakdos deck, and everything is based on sacrifice. So sacrifice this to draw cards, and it's all typical Rakdos stuff, what always Rakdos like to do. Or pay life to draw cards, which is a typical black thing to do, which no longer is like, as you mentioned, Necro would be a card that doesn't draw me cards, yet it draws cards for life and can avoid all the shenanigans of not drawing cards. But, you know, in a format like Artisan, it's more balanced. It's not like I'm going to go off with a Necro turn 1 or something. Even though Dark Ritual is legal, it's not really that much play.
Yeah. Well, and so I think an interesting thing about the format also is it leads to a feel more like old school EDH, where it feels a lot more battle cruisery. It's a lot more build up of forces. There's some like attrition plays. You know, you already touched upon the fact that like there's very few board wipes in Artisan. I did a quick look through, and like each color has pretty much one except green.
Well, actually, green has something people I've played with, they found, but it's, it requires something for you to have, like a board presence, so your creatures can just nuke everything else.
Oh, yeah.
Monstrous
onslaught. Yeah.
Exactly. I died to that card recently.
Fair, yeah. Yeah, in the format, like, if you're playing them, there aren't a whole lot of board wipes. Like, blue has Aetherize, white has just Slaughter the Strong, which got downshifted to uncommon in Commander Legends. If you're going for board wipes, you really need to be in black or red. Red's got a lot of the deal X amount of damage to all creatures, although it doesn't seem to get above 4. So if you've got 5 toughness, because also black has a lot of massacre effects that are like -2, or -3. If you've got 5 toughness in Artisan, you practically have indestructible. Red got a cool one, Volcanic Torrent, that I was looking at, that it has Cascade, and then it does X damage to each of your opponent's creatures, where X is the number of spells. So it has so if you've cast a bunch of spells, like, it's going to deal 2 damage at least, because you're casting this and you're cascading. But if you've cast like 3 or 4 other spells, then it can be pretty bananas. And pretty much all of the 1 mana cantrip spells are commons or uncommons. So there definitely is a place for like Gutter Snipes deck. Like, all them Gutter Snipes is commons and uncommons.
Yeah, but it's also easy to remove because Gutter Snipe is a 2/2, if I'm not mistaken.
It's true.
So there is a balance to it, I would say. And maybe it was not even intended to be balanced that way, but it is. And that's what makes it even more fun or more interesting, that it is balanced in a way.
Yeah, so the games tend to be longer. There seems to be a lot more reliance on synergy, lots of little, like, your parts of your deck all fitting together. So themes really seem to matter. Like, it's not so much just play the pile of best cards. You really want to kind of lean into your theme. And the cool thing is, there are a lot of strategies that are viable in Artisan. I'd say just about as many as are valuable in Commander. All the basic deck types, like aggro, combo, and control, are all there. There's a lot of tribal themes, especially, again, Commander Legends coming through, like, really the workhorse. I can't wait till Commander Legends 2 comes out later this year, because I think it's going to be just a huge boon.
Looking forward to it myself.
But you can play tribal, you can play tokens, you can play aura and equipments. You can go back to relying on commander damage. There's some big commanders that are commons and uncommons that can really just plan to beat face for a lot.
Dargo, very good example of that. 7/5. Yeah. Just,
give him. Cast him on turn 2 all the time.
I think the fastest I got him out was turn 2, but that was like an insane hand, which I had to dump almost all of my hand on that turn.
Yeah, and then if someone has a swords or a path to exile, you're like, oh nuts. It's nice that there are those. There are some, like, pressure release valves in the fact that, like, targeted removal. Most all targeted removal is still common and uncommon. So the removal suite is still powerful, and the counter spells are all not all the free ones other than force, but mana drain was an uncommon, and counterspell has been a common, right? So I feel like the colors have a lot of answers to stuff, but there's not as many board wipes, so you're able to slowly still be building up a board, even if your powerful pieces are being sniped here and there. And it really puts a lot of value on repeatable removal. So, like a card like Null Mage Shepherd, which can, like, repeatedly be destroying artifacts and enchantments every turn, like, I think really puts in work in a format where normally you're like, there's a lot of 1-for-1s in this format. So anytime you can eke out a 2-for-1 or 3-for-1 or just repeatedly doing it seems really huge.
Shriek Maw loops. Just kill everything that's not black or an artifact.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, and so to that, like, Reanimator is also viable, because Reanimate, Animate Dead, Necromancy, the trio of best reanimation spells, those were all uncommons. And before you think, oh, but there's not anything good to reanimate, there are quite a few common and uncommon Eldrazi's with Annihilator. Pathrazor of Ulamog is probably like the biggest, nastiest creature in the format, and also Artisan of Kozilek, who will do a reanimation along with putting an enormous creature on the battlefield.
Breaker of Armies, I think, as well, because I've been staring into the face of it as well. But you don't even have to go colorless for Eldrazi. You can just go the old school where you just put in Gary. Gary's an uncommon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's definitely a reason to lean into monocolor. I mean, again, monocolor and two-color are really the only viable options here. So you don't have to worry so much about mana base, which is great. Like, you don't have to worry about all the rare mana bases, but it also is nice because there isn't like a 5-color deck you need to support with like fetches and duels and stuff. But one thing I think has been really exciting was when Kaldheim added the snow duels, because it was the first time we actually had a true dual land with 2 land types at common or uncommon. So now the old school Mirage fetches like Floodplain can go get an actual dual land in this format, or a thing like Farseek can now actually go get a dual land. That's pretty exciting when you're playing like 2-color green.
Yeah, the 2-color decks have a lot of support for, especially as you mentioned, there's the slow fetches, the snow lands that are the 2. Even Modern Horizons 2 brought the indestructible cycle lands, which are 2-colored tap lands.
And there's a lot of artifact synergies too, so it's definitely valuable to be able to have access to multiple artifact lands. And combo is viable. There is no Thassa's Oracle, but there is Labman. He got downshifted to uncommon in Ultimate Masters, and Demonic Consultation has always been uncommon. So if you really want to get your CEDH fix and also prove to yourself you can do it without rares, Brainstorm and Dark Ritual and Demonic Consultation and Labman, those are all there. And as you mentioned before we got on here, Witherbloom Apprentice and Chain of Smog, both uncommons. So you can combo everybody out with that 2-card combo too if you want.
And obviously there are some other ones. You can get 3-card combos that are viable. The only thing is, don't count on drawing them. Don't be like, expect too much to draw. There are not many tutors in the format. Like, one of the bonkers tutors is Demonic Tutor, I think, is the only one that's legal.
Well, so there's Demonic Tutor, and the 3 Mirage Tutors were originally uncommon. So Mystical, Enlightened, and Worldly are all uncommon. And Black has a few in Demonic and like Diabolic Tutor and like Beseech the Queen if you're wanting to play a lot of mana. I've been kind of eschewing away from a lot of tutors in Commander recently because I want my deck to feel fresh and interesting to me on game 14 as much as it is on game 1, you know?
Yeah, as we mentioned in the earlier beginning, the deck challenges, my Artisan deck, even though it has Black, does not run a tutor. Not a single one, except if you don't count the lands, which find themselves. Like, there's no Demonic, there's no Diabolic, there's nothing. It's just pure, if I draw it, I play it. If I don't, I don't.
Right. Yeah, I feel like in Commander, both Artisan and not, more and more now, I've been just wanting to play more card draw than tutors. Like, if I want, I'll try and draw into the thing. But it seems like just going and finding the thing, after a while, you just figure out what's the best card for you to get at any given time, and then it feels like you're just, oh, I'm done with this game. Enter cheat code.
Yeah, which I think is okay in a normal casual where everything is allowed and, you've been going on for 2 hours and you just want to end everything. That's fine, but I think Artisan I never even had a game that took 2 hours. I think the longest one was like an hour 20.
Yeah. Well, I had a pretty long game, so I'm pretty excited about my most recent Artisan deck I built was around Quintorius, the Lorehold Archaeologist Elephant.
Mm-hmm.
And I was pretty excited to play him because, he's the one that he's a 2/4 for 5 that gives all your spirits +1/+0. And whenever one or more cards leave your graveyard, you create a 3/2 spirit. So you technically create a 4/2 spirit because he's pumping them up. And 4/2s are not insignificant, even at a regular commander table. Like, 4/2s that you can just throw around and throw at people are not an insignificant body. And I just really was drawn to the idea of like wanting to fill up my graveyard and then using like either like flashback effects or things like scrabbling claws to eat away at my own graveyard, or like dredge with shenanigans and stuff like that, to just start pumping out a bunch of these spirits that I can then just throw willy-nilly at people. And it turned out that, so I played it on Monday. I played it against 3 people playing regular Power Commander. I sat down, I told them, I'm like, hey, so this is an Artisan deck, and I don't mind if you guys play your regular Power decks. I would just like, this is my first game. Can you not play your fastest deck? I just want to like learn if I put the deck together right. I want to see it do its thing, even if I lose. And so everyone played like a medium power deck or whatever, and I ended up winning the game. And it was a long, like hour and a half or so long game, but it really felt like old Commander. Everybody was getting to do their thing. There were like creatures dying left and right and a slow buildup of forces. And ultimately, Quintorius in a pile of like 12 spirits won the day.
I can imagine must have been pretty fun. Now that I'm thinking about it, there's much spirit, and as you mentioned, tribal support, stuff like this, and you can always grow your spirits, which is a fun tactic.
Yeah, it turned out like there are a decent number of common and uncommon anthems, and several of them are spirits. There's one from the original Innistrad that gives all your creature tokens. It's a spirit that gives all your creature tokens +1/+1. So I'm like, awesome, great. And then there's a guy from Time Spiral that's like a flying crusade. Like all white creatures get +1/+1. It's called like Celestial Crusader or something like that. And it itself is a spirit. Even simple things like an all-star in that deck was Heraldic Banner from Eldraine, the thing that gives you choose a color, and it's a mana rock that taps for that color, but it also pumps all creatures of that color by +1/+0.
I played it in my Brawl deck with the fairy one, which made the 1/1 flyers that pumped them also to make it +1/+0.
One thing I've definitely noticed, and I'm sure that you've noticed too, is graveyard interaction seems really big for all 5 colors in Artisan. There's a lot of because, and I think maybe it's because there's like all this like attrition, like one for one plays. People, you really want to get like extra plays out of your card. So like flashback becomes a lot bigger, like aftermath effects become bigger.
Also the mechanic from Ferris Beyond Death, which was Escape.
Yeah,
one of my favorite removal and /card draw /gain life spells is Cling to Dust, which also saw plays in either formats like Modern, which is a more competitive format, and Cling to Dust sees play there.
Yeah. It's Ben Bateman is a big fan. I think he like has some huge win over Kessler thanks to Cling to Dust. You were telling me you have this deck that's based around Keskit and Dargo from Commander Legend. So how's that deck play? What's its strategy lines like?
Well, its main first focus line is sacrifice a lot of stuff, usually for value, and then just beat everybody down with Dargo. Dargo's the main win con, obviously. The 7/5 commander damage stacks up, and obviously it even has trample. A lot of graveyard recursion as well, so I do have a couple of loops with either Gary or some other things. I did put a 3-card infinite combo in there just for the lulz. As I mentioned, no tutors in it. I never actually really... I think I tried to assemble it once and I got foiled exactly in that's in case, and never ever again have I drawn all 3 cards to be viable. The combo is based... Viscera Seer is the sack outlet. First Class is the spell from Strixhaven that anytime a creature would enter the battlefield this turn, it's an instant, it will enter with a +1/+1.
First class,
And Murderous Redcap. So Redcap, it's old school.
Oh, snap. I did not even put together that Redcap plus First Day of Class is like an infinite combo with a sack outlet. I'm going to have to put that in. I've been building Jury Master of the Review. Similar, I imagine it plays a similar lines to that. Like Rakdos Sacrifice is a very valuable strategy in Artisan. I mean, the nice thing is if you're trying to think about like how do I want to build my Artisan deck, like be thinking about like what are some prominent draft strategies of like the colors you're thinking of. Like Rakdos often has Sacrifice as their draftable strategy, and it turns out there have been a ton of Rakdos sacrifice support at common and uncommon, especially in the last 10 years. Sort of like when I was talking about blue-white flyers. Like, if you want to put your Kangi Sky Warden deck together, let me tell you, there are a ton of blue-white flyer support cards.
Yeah, and we also started having like those black cards that have both sacrifice either a creature and or an artifact to support that format. There was Costly Plunder was, I think, one of the first from Ixalan way back. We have now Deadly Dispute, which is like one of the most broken commons. And the new set coming up, I brought Infernal Bargain, which is one of my favorites because it also gains you life. So if you do go for that, kill my Dargo, I'll just sacrifice him and gain 7 life because that's how big he is.
Yeah. I like that they gave him 7 power because I feel like it sort of harkens back to classic Commander because it's like 3 hits from a dragon, 3 hits from a 7 power creature will get you knocked out. And I feel like Commander damage is a relatively viable pathway to victory. I mean, I like I said, I've been tinkering around with this Jury Master Review deck, but it's based around when Commander Legends came out. Me and a bunch of my friends each bought a box and built a boxing league deck, where you just crack all the packs in a box and you're building a sealed Commander deck out of what was that in that one box. And I built around Jury Master of the Review. And it was really great. And there were several times where Jury was quickly like a 15-15, and I'm like, well, I'll just smack you a couple times and you're dead.
Speaking of giant creatures, even Celestia won Telasra the Moon Sage.
Oh, yeah, that was in Adventures in the Forgotten Realms, yeah.
Yeah, and as you know, even a popular format in other formats is Soul Sisters, and this one has all the Soul Sisters in it. And if you played an Artisan format in Arena and somebody played Life Gain deck, you can know that goes insane. Well, it does the same thing in Artisan. It just can go... You can just feed it so much. I think we had one rotation and it suddenly... I think even the discussion we had with the group that it somehow started to feel like a Jeska Ishai situation where people cast a couple of spells, suddenly an Ishai is a 7/7, you cast Jeska and you one-shot somebody. Well, this was similar because in one rotation, I think it became like a 15-15 or 16-16.
Yeah,
and then,
you get to play all 3 of the Soul Sisters because you get the green one too, Essence Warden, and you can then play also the Prosperous Innkeeper, right? That's been really blown up standard.
Yep.
Yeah, Trelasara is real good, and that Scry 1, there's that kind of feeling like once you've scryed 2, it's almost like drawing a card, and so she's green-white. Turbo card selection. So you're going to dig right to that Shield of the Oversoul or Armadillo Cloak, some those auras or equipments that really start making her impossible to deal with.
Trailblazer Boots.
Yeah. And I was thinking about back in the day, Loxodon Warhammer was a pretty legitimate Commander card back when Commander was EDH. If you're playing Kresh the Bloodbraided or Rafik of the Mini, one of the early beatdown commanders, then it was great to give them +3/+0 trample and lifelink.
I always loved Crash.
Yes, I think that's, again, I've said it before, but one thing that really excites me about Artisan is I feel like I'm playing EDH again. I feel like I'm digging through boxes, I'm finding a cool, obscure old card, I'm looking up, I'm oh, great, it wasn't uncommon, oh, snaps, I can't wait to put this in.
Yeah, one of my pet cards I have in my Dargo deck is nobody ever has played it. I don't think even in a limited format has been played as a card from Battle Bond as a 4-mana enchantment called Inner Demon. And what it basically does, 2/2, +2/+2 flying, but it also gives -2/2 to all non-demon creatures. So you can technically wipe the board, yet empower your own creature to be bigger and give it elevation.
Yeah.
So it's 2 for 1.
Oh, so spicy. I remember I was playing against an Artisan deck that was based around Killian, the Ink Duelist, who was the Silver Quill uncommon guy, and he's the one that says spells that target creatures cost 2 less. And he cast Inner Demon for 2 mana on Killian, making Killian now a 4/4 flying menace lifelink, and wiped like all the little nerds, all the goblins that people had, and I was just like, wow, that is a lot you got for just 2 mana. So yeah, Inner Demon's definitely like a spicy one.
Yeah, I love that card. It's one of my favorites.
I want to take a moment. I feel like we sort of talked about it, but there are still, for those of you who are excited about like some powerful Haymaker cards, there are still powerful Haymakers in Artisan Commander. Cards that like, oh yeah, that was printed at Uncommon at one point in time. So like Skull Clamp, arguably the greatest equipment ever played. Like, it's okay, we don't have Swords of X and Y because we still have Skull Clamp.
The best artifact.
Things like Isochron Scepter is legal, and so is Dramatic Reversal if you really want to do that nuttiness.
And the fun thing, you have even a commander that you can go infinite with like similar to Thrasios, because you have that uncommon down version of Thrasios, the 04 from Adventures of the Forgotten Realms, I think it is, also in Simic colors. Which you pay 4 mana, draw
something.
Yes, that's also still legal. See?
Yeah. And you could do Dramatic Scepter with the Izzet Wizard Legend, Adeliz, who gives all your wizards +1/+1 whenever you cast a spell. So you just like, I will cast her, I will Dramatic Scepter, all of my wizards become infinite. And she has haste and flying, so like, just immediately swing and kill someone.
You don't even need to make infinite mana, just infinitely cast that.
Yeah, and if you're looking for like combo and value, both Ashnod's Altar and Krark Clan Ironworks are uncommons. Mm-hmm. And Goblin Bombardment, though it has been reprinted as a rare, was originally an uncommon as well. So lots of valuable sacrifice outlets. I think sacrifice is definitely a very viable strategy in this format across multiple colors. So you brought up Neon Dynasty, and one of the things that really pushed me to want to have this episode is because we've got a Discord for Artisan Commander set up. Definitely check in the show notes and in the description below, where you can join on the Artisan Discord, join in the discussion, the excitement around the format. But one thing a lot of people have been talking about, obviously, is Neon Dynasty and what cards have been added to the format here. And so I made a little list of a few cards from the set that I think really excite me for the format. So the first is to talk about the 3 new commanders. We got 3 new commanders that are viable. The Yamazaki Cousins, Heiko and Norika, and Naomi, Pillar of Order.
So it's mono red, mono white, and Orzhov, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. And if you follow a member of the Commander Advisory Group, Shivam Bot, on Twitter, he gave the go-ahead that if you want to play Heiko and Norika as partners with each other, you can do that. And I firmly support that Rule 0, so get out there. Feel free to, I mean, if you sat down at the table and is like, I'm playing Heiko and Norika as partners together, I'd be like, hell yeah, bring it on. It feels like they're supposed to have partner.
Yeah, it kind of feels like they were supposed to have, like, even in Midnight Hunt, I think it was, or it was in Crimson Vow, they even released where we originally had from Commander Legends Halana and Atla, or what her name was, and they were like partners, and now they literally are as a partner commander. It's one commander, but it's both of them, the 2 characters. Missed opportunity, I think. Yeah.
They individually, like, they're okay. They do something that's sort of new. Like, white doesn't really have an enchantment reanimator at uncommon, so that's kind of cool. Red definitely has some more ways to get artifacts back, so I don't know if Heiko Yamazaki is necessarily going to be... I think what I was more interested in was the fact that they have that when a samurai or warrior attacks alone trait, so I'm more interested about them in the 99 and playing a Boros warrior attacks alone deck. Like, what sort of really exciting thing can you do there? And like, one of my favorite Artisan commanders, Rogrock, son of Roga, is a Kobold warrior. So he can attack alone. He can trigger Heiko and Norika. He can trigger all the other when a warrior or samurai attacks alone triggers. So I'm sort of tempted to like build build him, maybe him with Arden.
I was waiting to hear Arden. I was waiting for that moment when that happens. That is like the most even CDH is like the most new popular, the hot thing that everybody loves to do.
He's spicy. And also Bruenor Battlehammer from Adventures in the Forgotten Realms is also a Boros warrior that lends itself well to like essentially playing like Voltron, like just pile it all on Bruenor, have him attack alone, trigger all of your Neon Dynasty cards. The next card that I'm really excited about is Containment Construct, and to a lesser extent, Bag of Holding, which got downshifted to uncommon in Adventures in the Forgotten Realms. These are the only two cards that we've seen that essentially give sort of madness to cards in the Artisan format. And I'm really hyped on them. In part, I'm playing both of them in the aforementioned Quintorius deck because both of them are worded that the card gets discarded to your graveyard and then exiled from your graveyard. And so both Quintorius, also Tormod, will get triggered seeing cards leave your graveyard. So if you're building around Quintorius or Tormod, both of these cards seem like auto-includes because they can just get you so much extra value whenever you have to discard cards.
Or even Sir Conrad.
Ooh, yes, Sir Conrad gets you double triggers on Sir Conrad. Yeah, Sir Conrad, I haven't quite gotten around to let me just try and build the strongest Artisan Commander deck I can, but I imagine Sir Conrad is definitely in the running for... if you really push it, strongest Artisan Commander. Another thing I'm excited about out of Neon Dynasty are the reconfigure creatures, the equipment creatures. I think I think it's really exciting that while they're equipments, they're immune to things that are going to kill a whole bunch of creatures. So if someone does
bestow, basically.
Exactly, yeah. It works like a constantly re-bestowing thing. And there's a few of them like Acquisitions Octopus and Battery Rabbit that I just think are like Battery Rabbit especially, it's a 1 mana haste creature that for 1 mana can bestow +1/+1 in haste. Like, hell yeah.
I played that in my Dargo Tevesh deck even. And it's also an artifact.
It's an artifact. It's an equipment that can carry other equipment. So if you're playing an equipment deck and someone manages to kill a bunch of your creatures, like that one equipment can pick up all the other equipment and still go to town. I'm pretty excited about Behold the Unspeakable. It's a saga that chapter 1 shrinks all your opponent's creatures, so it does a good job of like pillow forting. On chapter 2, it draws you between 2 and 4 cards, depending on how many cards you have in your hand, which is always cool. And then chapter 3, it becomes a star flying trampling creature where star is the number of cards in your hand. So it becomes like a legit big threat after turtling up and drawing you some cards. So you just get a lot of value out of this one card.
I like it personally. I've even played against it in draft formats and got literally annihilated by it.
Okay, so 2 cards I'm really excited about is Colossal Sky Turtle and Greater Tanuki, and to a lesser extent, Mirror Shell Crab. I'm playing all 3 of them in one of the Artisan decks I have built that is just a ton of fun, is Gilanra, Caller of Wildwood, and Brinelin the Moonkraken. So these were a green and a blue legendary partners from Commander Legends, and they played in the draft archetype of that format of caring about cards that cost 6 or more mana. So Gilanra taps to make a mana, and if you spend that mana on a card that costs 6 or more, you get to draw a card. And Brinelin bounces a permanent when it enters the battlefield, or when you cast a card that costs 6 or more. So the 2 of them together want you to play just as many 6 or more cost cards as you can. Now, if you just play nothing but 6 cost cards in your deck, you're not going to be doing anything for a whole lot of time. So cards that are big threats that also happen to be spells when you either cycle them, evoke them, or channel them, like Colossal Sky Turtle and Greater Tanuki, are just great. In the early game, when you just need to be ramping, Greater Tanuki is a very serviceable ramp spell. And later in the game, he's a 6/5 trampler. Like, he's a legit threat that people have to deal with. Colossal Sky Turtle, the same way, is both a regrowth and a bounce spell. And the Mirror Shell Crab is a mana leak.
Yeah, and there's also the green instant, which is also basically like an instant regrowth from Kamigawa on Neon Dynasty, if I'm not mistaken. It's like for 3 mana, but it's an instant. It also has like 2 modes. One of them is to return a creature, and one of them to put it on top or into your hand, and the other is that return a card. And you can mix and mash with multiple cards, which you just mentioned. I've actually seen this happen to me on a draft table once. It was an arena table, and they just kept regrowing and returning the couple of turtles and that spell to each other's hand, and always just going up and up and up.
Oh, right. It's the one that you can get like a creature or an enchantment back, or both. Another card that I'm excited about from this set is Invigorating Hot Spring. This is... it's a...
the new Fires of Yamimaya, basically.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like fire. Like, you get fires. Fires is already legal, and so is Rhythm of the Wild. I found Rhythm of the Wild is a really powerful card in Artisan, and so this kind of goes into that same vein. But it's cool in that it bestows haste on your modified creatures and has the ability to modify a creature every turn. So if you're playing a deck that's already heavily invested in modified creatures, then it is basically just a Fires, but it's a Fires plus, right? I feel like if you're playing a deck that wants a Fires effect, you want multiples of them. And so now you can play this, you can play Rhythm of the Wild, and you can play Anger. Which, quick sidebar, Anger is part of a cycle of 5 creatures from Judgment, and they are all awesome. They are all great in this format. Anger and Wonder, the blue one that gives flying, are the most famous, but I included Valor, the white one, which gives all your creatures first strike, in my Artisan deck, my Quintorius Artisan deck on Monday, and I got Valor in the yard very early on, and people playing full power EDH decks were like, we just can't attack into you ever, because you have a bunch of spirits and they all have first strike. They can all gang block and kill anything that I attack. And then I'd be attacking with these like 5/3 spirits, and they all have first strike, so there just aren't a lot of profitable blocks either. And then green gives trample, and black gives swamp walk, which is often just unblockable, right? So like, just pretty much as good as Wonder could be.
I do like Anger for the haste. Anger is one of my favorite cards, the angry little baby.
Let's see. We've also got Secluded Courtyard, and Tribal is big game in Artisan. So getting access to a second unclaimed territory, a better unclaimed territory, is just huge for your pirates or your elves, spirits, whatever type of deck you're playing. Big fan of it.
Yeah, I like that land.
And then the last card that I'm really excited about from this set is Tawashi Guidebot. So +1/+1 counters are legit a strategy in this format. And oftentimes the +1/+1 counter decks are in things like green and white. And Tawashi Guidebot just gives those colors card draw that they really need. It's a 4-cost 2/1. When it enters the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on a creature you control. And then it has pay 4, tap, draw a card. But this ability costs 1 less for each modified creature you control. Ergo, if you have 4 modified creatures, he just taps to draw a card. He's just a colorless archivist for any deck that wants it. And it turns out that, like, I think in Artisan Commander, Archivist is good. A lot of people want Archivist, especially if Archivist is an artifact creature, so it can be cast for any colors that you happen to have, can be played around with all the artifact synergies. So
it can be played in any deck, basically.
Especially if your commander if you've chosen a commander like Jury, Master of the Review, somebody who modifies themselves already, then I think it's worth to play Tawashi Guidebot, because the Guidebot will come in and immediately modify something. And if your commander is also modified, then baseline, it's going to be 2 mana tap draw card, which is pretty much a good deal all the time.
I also like the 1 mana Ronin, which is the 1 mana 2 to the new Goblin Guide. with haste, which you can later, which also returns back, and then later you can channel to draw a card, which is always nice. So you can always put it back, and if you have reanimation, you can bring it back, attack, return to your hand, draw a card, and just keep the cycle going. Obviously, I did mention it earlier. Reckoner's Bargain, another of those instant 2-mana speed, draw a card, sacrifice something, draw a card, and this time gain life. So if you sacrifice something huge, it's a lot of life. And 2 cards.
The permanence mana value. And one thing that's kind of goes along with this that I've been playing a lot in the jury deck I've been talking about is most threatens, most effects that steal a creature until end of turn are common and uncommon. So having powerful sacrifice outlets like Reckoner's Bargain is a real nice 2-1 punch. Like, imagine just, threatening your opponent's biggest creature, swinging it at somebody, smashing them, and then Reckoner's Bargaining it away. So then you draw the 2 cards to replace the threaten and the Reckoner's Bargain that you just cast, and you're gaining a bunch of life. Like, that's again, like we were saying, Artisan isn't so much about these big over the top, like 1 card win the game things. It's about eking out turn after turn the most value from that turn cycle. And so cards like Reckoner's Bargain allow you to be the person that, okay, in this turn cycle, I was the one that came out ahead. You all are down a card, I'm up a card, I'm crushing it.
You actually inspired me because I was looking at my deck and was trying to, as we mentioned, you build a deck, you play it and fill holes, and that hole was, I can get rid of some big nasty problems sometimes, so why not just steal them, use them, and sacrifice them?
Yeah, especially when you've got both of your commanders allow you to sacrifice creatures on command, right? So, like, being able to be like, oh, well, I'll just threaten your Eldrazi and then feed it to Keskit after I've gotten done with it, Yeah.
Exactly. So I do need to make some changes. I have like a couple of slots there I was thinking like, you're fun, but not that fun.
Oh, I guess one card that maybe it would be exciting to some people is Anchor to Reality. That's the card that's sort of like Tinker, but it tinkers for an equipment or vehicle card. It's the 4-mana sacrifice
fixed Tinker.
It's a little bit of a fixed Tinker. Now we don't have the most insane equipments or vehicles in Artisan, but it's not nothing to have a 4-mana tutor that then puts the thing you tutored for directly onto the battlefield. So Anchor to Reality, definitely one to keep in mind. So we're kind of drawing to a close here, but I want to kind of talk about, like, how do you feel about how the format, have you noticed the format evolving in the time that you've been playing it, making content for it? And do you think there's any cards on your radar as, like, problematic as we're trying to forge Artisan as its own independent entity that can both exist on its own and play within the wider command? Like, one of the reasons why I'm really excited about Artisan is it can be its own micro ecosystem within the wider Commander world. You can definitely play your Artisan decks against full power Commander decks, but you can also sit down at a table, say, hey, I've got an Artisan deck, anyone else do? And you can have a table where we've got a secret sub game going on. But do you feel like within this, like, sub format, is there anything that's really standing out to you as maybe problematic on your radar, or how do you feel the format is progressing?
From what I've seen and what I've played, I don't think there's anything problematic with this format or any of the cards that are currently legal here. We might get it in the future because, the more cards get printed, but as we're standing right now, I think the format is pretty balanced and pretty fun. And I recommend everyone to try it. Yeah,
me too. I also feel that way. I've thrown down with Alex, and I hope that we get to do a stream here soon, but maybe we can arrange a stream over on the Veil of Death YouTube, that maybe we could just try and build the most busted Artisan Commander deck you can think of. Like, build that combo deck, build that Tatiova, like, land ramp into Insanity deck, or the Sir Conrad combo. I've been tinkering around. I have a list for a Cole the Forge Master combo deck that I feel like would be pretty strong. And maybe we can just see, like, are these cards really? Because every time I brought up Artisan, and when we created the Artisan Discord, which, again, look in the comments to join the Discord, one of the things that comes up a lot is people are like, well, surely you guys have to just ban Tatiova right away, right? And I don't think you do. I think the thing that makes Tatiova and AC and those similar Simic ramp commanders so insane in the regular commander is the big rare effects, the expropriates and the cyclonic rifts and stuff that they're building up to that don't exist in Artisan, but also cards like Exploration and Burgeoning and Azusa Lost But Seeking, they aren't legal either. So you're not being able to get a ton of extra land drops. There's no Oracle Moldias, There are spell effects that are like, this turn you may play an extra land, Utopia, Growth Spiral and stuff like that. Like you can play Growth Spiral and Exploration, but there are not a lot of permanents that just say you get extra land drops indefinitely. And I think that's what allows Tatiova and AC and stuff to snowball. And so they don't exist in Artisan. So while I don't deny that Tatiova is a strong commander, I don't think she is so like insane and over the top that like we gotta ban her before she's even proven herself.
I just played against the Tatiova recently, and I didn't feel like that deck was busted. I mean, obviously we respect it because we know what that deck can do on different formats, but in Artisan I never felt like too threatened by it. I mean, obviously card draw is still viably good strategy, but there's nothing like that goes insanely well with that deck that can't go with any other deck in this format right now. As we mentioned, there's Isochrome Scepter is a legal card, and I have not seen many people either play it or even go for it because it's really hard in this limited pool of let's say cards to properly go always for that turn 1, turn 2, CDH style win. It's still a long game, a fun game, and there's nothing really like inherently super broken in this format.
Yeah. I hope that this episode has been a real encouragement for y'all to get out there. It's an affordable format to get into. You probably already have plenty of cards in your collection that you'd be like, oh man, I really want to get this in a deck. Well, now you can. Here's your excuse. Find your favorite commons and uncommons. Find an uncommon legend that you really like. And we know this year we've got Commander Legends 2, Baldur's Gate coming out. So expect there to be more uncommon legends coming out. I really want to thank Veil of Death for Veil of Death MTG for being on the podcast. Where can people find you?
First of all, thank you for having me. It was a big pleasure. And second of all, you can just find me on my YouTube channel, Veil of Death MTG.
Great. So we'll have links to that in the show notes and below. Check them out. Got lots of cool Artisan and other Magic content on there. And also a reminder, join the conversation on the Artisan Discord. That's it for us this week. The gang will be back next week to talk more things Magic. And thank you all for joining us. Get out there and have fun with your commons and uncommons.
This has been a production of Time Traveler Media, sending podcasts into the future.